Hey everyone, welcome back to Life After Neverland and Happy New Year! Hope everyone had a wonderful celebration and you're ready to start 2020 like nobody's business. Okay, let's get started though with our recap discussion about The Chosen, this newfound TV show honoring Jesus that I discovered on the Play Store app. And if you're like, what are you talking about, Corinne? I covered the very first episode recently, so you're going to want to check that out as well. In the meantime, make sure that you go to the app and download that Chosen series and get started watching so that we can talk about it. All right. Also, you guys, please, it would mean so much to me if you would hit the subscribe button and give me a thumbs up, because we really appreciate all the people that take the time to watch our vlog, and we want to stay tuned and connect with you as much as we possibly can. All right. So for the first episode, I basically gave you a commentary, but what I would like to do moving forward with this TV series is talk about the characters in this show, because they're extremely dynamic, and I'd love to just kind of talk more about what they're experiencing and how that makes us feel and all that good stuff. Okay, so after watching episode 1, hopefully you're all caught up and we can talk about Mary. Now in this episode, everybody is celebrating the Shabbat. You see Mary and she is flourishing. She's flourishing. She's got a light about her. And what I want to say about this is, again, if you watched the first episode and you saw what Mary was like prior, for me, the way I look at it is, what a difference it makes when you are feeling loved, when you feel valued, and when the people in your life support you. And there's that unconditional feeling. And she has that now. The people that she is surrounded with are smiling at her, they're accepting of her, they're encouraging of her. And if you see Mary, she's always apologizing. Oh, I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry. You can tell that she's very insecure and not quite confident in the new shoes that she's living in. Although she's happy, she still has a little bit of her past in her. And you'll see at the very end of the episode where Jesus comes to the Shabbat dinner that Mary is now hosting, and she's very nervous about it because she's never really hosted a Shabbat before, and she keeps apologizing and doubting herself. And Jesus basically asks her, Mary, go ahead, we believe in you. And he sits back and he lets her, even though she stumbles a little bit, everybody at the table is very supportive of her and encouraging of her. No one's trying to bring her down. No one's trying to judge her. What would it be like to live in a world where you didn't feel like that? Where you didn't feel judged? Where you didn't feel like you had to say, I'm sorry, all the time? I mean, there's people that do things that they should actually say sorry for, and they just don't even say it, I mean, what kind of person could you be? And what kind of person would you be if you had people in your life who truly supported you? I do want to apologize for some of the sounds that you might be hearing. Hopefully they're not too loud. I'm very close to the airport here. Just imagine that for a second. And I'm pausing for a second because in the new year, I think that's something that we should ask ourselves. So with Mary's story, I just wanted to encourage everyone with the new year being here to start evaluating those people in your life. Who are the ones that are supportive of you, that love you unconditionally? You flip and fall on your face. Are they the ones that laugh with you, or are they the ones that are laughing at you? When you make a mistake, do they condemn you, or do they openly forgive you and accept you for everything that you are? That's profound. There's so many things about Mary. I told you before that you could go down different paths like alcoholism, PTSD. Another thing that I thought about is like a battered woman. Once they're kind of coming out of that and they're maybe in a place where Mary is, where they're feeling redeemed or they're feeling whole again, They're starting their life over. They might have low self-esteem. They might be insecure. And at that point, it's very crucial the type of people that you invite into your life. And you see Nicodemus. Word gets to Nicodemus that she has been, basically a miracle has happened to Mary, and she's now healed. And she's basically a whole new woman. And he needs to go and see for himself. And once he does, Mary doesn't really want anything to do with him once he starts to tell her who he is, where he came from, because she forgot. I don't even know if she didn't forget. She just didn't remember when he came to exorcise her from the demons. But you could tell immediately she wanted to push away from him because she didn't want anything or any part of that in her life anymore. She didn't want to go back there anymore because she's going this way, not this way. And that is profound in so many different levels. And of course, Nicodemus, he didn't want to go there with her. He was just trying to figure out what happened. And so, just with that being said, let's evaluate the people who are in our lives and who help us to press forward and who help us to grow in a positive direction and not pull us down into the gutter. Okay? All right, so I'm going to move on with Nicodemus' story. So he's an interesting character, and I think that for just a little minute, he felt bad because he wasn't the one that was able to help Mary. But then also because he's such a deep individual, or at least he comes across as a deep individual, I really think that he was mesmerized by what had happened to her, and he can't wait to delve into that more and find out what is truly happening. Because isn't she a mystery? What happened? And she said, she didn't know. I thought that was interesting because the first episode, I actually thought she recognized Jesus or knew that he was the Messiah. I thought that, but apparently she didn't know. She didn't know, but she knew he was something. That was curious to me. She said to Nicodemus that his time for man to know who he is has not come yet. And what was interesting is Nicodemus was like, this person, whoever he is, he's performing miracles and he doesn't want any credit, which is one of the beautiful things about Jesus. And again, people in our lives that are doing good things for us, I think that's an indication right there. I'm not saying that these people need to act like Jesus, but why not try to be a better person? And so when you find people in your life who are doing good things, do they want something from you in return? Ew. So what I was thinking, I had an ant on my finger. Ugh. Okay. So that made me think of a whole nother situation that we come across in our everyday life. People will do good things for us, and sometimes that's very misleading. Because ultimately, we are heartbroken when we find out that those good deeds were only done because they wanted something back in return. And how heartbreaking is that? But what about the people in our lives that are doing things that don't want anything back in return? They're actually doing things for us because they genuinely care about us. I think that's valuable. For your quality of life, this is so valuable. And again, this is why I like this show, because it's really heavy, but in a good way, an uplifting way, and a really moving way. I love it. Now, Nicodemus in his personal life, he wants to seek more God, and he wants to learn more about the world and the way that it works. And his wife, unfortunately, I think he's realizing, unless I'm misinterpreting this, you guys, and please let me know if you get a different indication from this. I'd love to know your input. I feel like his wife is the superficial person who looks at money. She looks at celebrity status and physical things as being important. And I don't think Nicodemus looks at things like that at all. And he's starting to see that in her the more that he is growing as an individual. Because he was having a special dinner. And as he walked in it was either before or after he had talked with Mary. And she was talking about the plates on the table and how they were made of this special clay and gold and all of this superficial junk. And I'm interested to see, like I said before, where his journey is going to go and what's going to happen with his wife and himself. Like, are they going to stay together? Is she going to be moved and changed? Is he going to grow away from her? What is going to happen here? So in the last episode, I told you that we would touch on Simon and Andrew, the two brothers. This is a fascinating story. I'm so excited to see what's going to happen with Simon and when Jesus gets a hold of him. Anyways, we see one of the Roman guards, I think his name is Gaius, and with Matthew, the tax collector, the young tax collector. And they're going to the praetor of Judea. His name is Dominus, I believe. And they're basically talking to him about what Simon is doing. Simon wants to be relieved of his taxes, as well as his brother Andrew, because Simon is helping them scope out different Jews that are fishing during the Shabbat when they're not supposed to be doing that during the Shabbat, and they're not taxed during that time. So they're basically cheating out their taxes by doing so. And you'll see here that little Matthew, the tax collector, he comes across very wimpy and kind of like, I don't know, small individual. But he enjoys the fact that Dominus is intrigued by his ballsy integrity, for lack of a better word or term. He's not afraid to throw Simon under the bus and basically spy on Simon, in my opinion. Simon's being shady, and Matthew knows it. And he's not afraid to speak up to Dominus, which is really interesting because you see Gaius, the soldier or the guard, and he's actually fearful, and he shows it. He bows down, because they could kill him just like that if they don't like him. And the soldier is fearful, but Matthew is not. And that really intrigues Dominus. The thing that scares me is that Matthew, he smiled when Dominus was kind of flattering him on the fact that he was, like, again, lack of a better term, ballsy, big kahunas, for such a little guy. And he's dealing with all of these guards, and essentially the guards are strong, and they have probably a lot of training and can fight, but ultimately in their soul they're a bit weak, if that makes any sense. So now back to Simon. So Simon and Andrew are talking, and basically what Simon is doing is he's calling out his Jewish friends. So if his Jewish friends on Shabbat are fishing and they're not supposed to because it's against the law, they're cheating too. And Andrew has a lot of integrity, and he's saying to Simon, this is wrong what you're doing. You're outing your friends. These are your friends, and you're outing them. And then Simon is saying, well, look what they're doing. They're doing wrong. You and I will have to give up our boat. We're going to have to give up all the things that we love. We're trying to pay our taxes, and we can't. And they're being shady and doing something that they're not supposed to. Why not? So it's interesting to see two different perspectives. And if you look at Simon's perspective, what he is doing is essentially wrong. It's his way of surviving, and he's justifying it. And in a way, you can't argue with him, but because of what he's doing is wrong, he is essentially hurting the ones that he loves and himself. So how fascinating is that? So let's move on to Matthew, the tax collector. This story is, I feel like they're going to touch our hearts even more with Matthew, because he's been spit on by the Jews. And he's a Jew, so his fellow Jews, he's been spit on, he's been beaten up, he's been pushed to the ground and treated like trash, very similar to how Mary has, just in a little bit of a different way, because he's a tax collector, so he's basically bringing it on himself. And because it's his job, he has to put himself in a position where he can't really care what the other people's needs are. Because his job is to collect the taxes, and he has a responsibility, and he even said that. But what you find out, Gaius is talking to him, and he says that his father taught him to be responsible and not give up on his job, basically. But yet his father wants nothing to do with him. And then it shows him later, they're having a Shabbat, and he's walking with some food down the alleyway, and there's this dog. The dog is following him, and he says, if there's any food left over, I'll leave it for you later. And then you see him looking in, I guess, like a window or whatever, and there's a family celebrating the Shabbat. And he looks very emotional. And I can't help but believe that that is his family, and he's been shunned by his family, and they want nothing to do with him. And then he ends up eating his food in the alleyway with the dog. And it's really heartbreaking because we think of so many times when our families, they don't understand us. Maybe there's no communication going on. And then there's that broken bond. And you can see that whatever his family, we'll probably find out later, but whatever his family thinks of him, maybe due to the taxation, maybe they care about what the community of the other Jews think about him and what he's doing, so they want nothing to do with him. I don't know. But they don't care about what they're doing to their own son. They don't care. And that's so painful. That's so painful and so sad to see him sitting out there eating with the dogs. Now, I wouldn't mind eating with the dogs, but I love dogs. But having your family shun you in such a way, and he's definitely alone. And then the whole community of the people, due to his work, want nothing to do with him. So now we're going to go to the very end of the episode where Jesus is having the Shabbat with Mary and some of the other lovely people in her life. And I love how Jesus is at this table because, sometimes at Thanksgiving dinner, certain people in our family are a little bit quirky and we're all like rolling our eyes at them and everybody's kind of giving each other a hard time for this, that, and whatever because of our different quirks. And I love how Jesus handled every single person at that table. And what I loved the most was there was this guy, and unfortunately, you guys, I'm so sorry, I cannot remember what his name was, but he said, I'm Jesus of Nazareth. And the guy goes, oh, well, something good came out of Nazareth. And everybody looked at him like, how could you possibly say that? You're so rude. And Jesus was just like, and he winked. It was precious. I love it. He accepts people for who they are, quirks and all. And again, isn't that how we should be? So, in finishing up, you guys, what I got out of this episode is the depth of being a human and all the struggles that we have and how we treat each other. And then you're seeing how Jesus is treating everyone. And when you have love, when you feel valued, when you are appreciated, and you're meant to feel like you have a purpose and your purpose has meaning, and that is supported, what can that do for you? What type of person will you become? And are you more like Jesus? Are you the supporter, or are you the one that's the taker? Are you the one that is hurting someone else? Are you the one that is making that person want to commit suicide? Are you the one that is making that person sit out in an alleyway and eat with the dogs and not have a good quality of life? What impact are you making on other people? So I'm leaving that with you guys today. All right? Happy New Year, everyone. I do kind of hope that in reviewing this TV series with you, we can all work together to make a better difference in this world. And I think that, like I said before, Dallas Jenkins and The Chosen and all of the actors, video angels, you are making a difference in this world by showing us such a beautiful series. And I really hope this will continue because I am in love. Oh, God bless everyone. Please, again, I would love it if you subscribed. Join me to watch The Chosen, and please hit the like button. Until next time, everyone, God bless.